I was church. That's
Oh,
all I was. That's all I knew.
can we go back to the wedding day?
I'm getting ready. I'm getting
Oh
ready.
Oh
I'm getting
my
ready
yeah.
to say that. I'm getting ready to
God.
tell you this,
Wow.
y'all.
Oh,
When the Lord when the Lord gave me my wife, and we
Ay, ay,
decided
ay.
to get married,
Mhm,
we got married,
mhm,
and I went to church. We went to church.
mhm.
I took her to church.
Wedding gown and all.
heart. We need your heart.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let me ask you all this question because in ministry, and
Mhm.
this is something that me and my wife go through, and maybe you guys can help us.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes the members, I believe that they really don't understand that you guys are human, like meaning that you have a life and you have a schedule. So
Right,
that means
right, right.
so it becomes challenging because
Mhm.
now they're pulling on you no matter what your schedule is, but they're
Yep.
pulling on you according to their availability. Like they want you and they want you now, no matter what you got going on, no matter if you're gonna take her out on the boo some boo time. I want to spend some boo time. How
Nothing.
do you balance that out? And us being, because as pastors, it sometimes my heart goes out because I always want to help. I always want to help.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I want to help. Okay, hold on, babe. Saying, let me get back. But we gotta find how do you balance that? How do you balance that?
Let let me start from the beginning.
Let's talk about it.
I was I was church. That's
Oh my.
all I was. That's
Wait,
all I knew.
can we go back to the wedding day?
I'm getting ready
Oh,
to
Ay,
I'm getting
ay,
ready to
ay.
say that. I'm getting ready to
oh,
tell you this,
wow.
y'all.
Oh,
Um, when the Lord when the Lord gave me my wife, and we
Ay, ay,
decided
ay.
to get married,
Mhm,
we got married,
mhm,
and I went to church. We went to church.
mhm.
I took her to church.
Wedding gown and all.
I went to the
Wow.
church, and then I end up sitting in the pulpit. My pastor called me
Yes.
to sit up in the pulpit
Not
to
in the
preside.
audience. Pulpit.
I listen.
Full wedding gown.
I had,
Bouquet.
and
Wow.
believe me, I had to hear about this. I had
What?
to hear about it. My mother came to the church and said, "Let's go."
Oh my
She said, "This is your wedding night.
God. Mhm. How that's gonna work.
Let's go." I had to repent later, but it was just
it
that's
was what
all
you
I
knew.
knew.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I was I
Wow.
was taught be
Oh.
in church, be in church, be in church, do this, that. I be in church. I found out later the reason why pastors and their wives split up is because all they do is church,
Church.
church,
My goodness.
church,
Yeah.
and never spend time with each other.
Wow.
Because what you have to realize, like you said, you're human. So outside of the church and ministry, I'm Yvette, he's Eugene. We were
Mhm.
dating each other. We were getting to know each other, know each other,
Yes.
falling in love with each other. You can't do all that if you just always in church. Like you didn't.
Yeah.
Then after you get married, then everything stopped. And then don't talk about later on, then the kids and everything else. But you
Right.
gotta, you gotta. There has to be a boundary, and we had to learn that. Like we didn't take vacations. We didn't really do anything. Everything was around church. So it is, it was a struggle the
Oh
first
yeah.
couple of years because everything literally was around church. Like my kids would tell you, like from whenever we didn't spend times or holidays, it was always with our members, as
Mhm.
a family, which is okay. But I think people they forget that these are individuals that are still human. This is a husband
Mm,
and a wife. So like I said, the divorce rate is very high because you're not spending time with the husband, the husband's not spending time with you. Then if the needs are not getting met intimately, then he going out doing whatever, then she's doing whatever, feeling,
Yeah.
like he's
yeah.
not there for her. And then the other
Yeah,
Yes.
things is
yeah,
open
yeah.
up a door for other things. So you people
Yes.
have to learn, and all the time that so we've been married in the ministry, you got to take time to say, no, we're going away. We're shutting the phone up. I would tell him like the last 10, maybe 20 years, we are not going to church. Do not bring a church outfit.
While you on vacation.
On vacation, I got shorts or whatever. We are not
go
going to church. Don't call nobody and tell them we're coming, because we're not coming to preach, pray, do nothing. We're going to enjoy one another. Like, we're on our wedding
That's
anniversary.
ministry.
Where we
Yeah.
going? No. So you gotta, that boundary, it was hard because, like I said, when you want to just help people and you want to be there, but when they're ready to go on their rendezvous and they boo time and all that stuff,
Come on.
where y'all at? Oh, I'm out of town. Well, you ain't told
And
us.
when was you going to tell us?
When was you
Yeah.
So,
We,
when you come back,
Wow.
we as
Wow.
leaders, the challenges
So,
of pastoring
or just
and-
ministry
and
period.
ministry, we as pastors, we take the weight of the people.
Yeah.
And God didn't call us to take the weight of the people. And we find this out later. This is later.
You live
But-
your life and theirs. No.
We
Yeah.
church, making sure this is paid, making sure this is done. But you go away, you take your tithe, you don't come to church, you get mad, you don't come to church. And if the lights get shut off or you get put out, they're looking at you
Right.
because we take the weight. We want to make sure that the church is taken care of, the finances is taken care of in the church. Our families get neglected.
Right.
And it's a lot of things that have happened that we had to learn as we went forth in ministry.
Right.
I've had a few leaders that have told me, you need to go away,
Mhm.
take your wife away. You don't need to be in church every time the church doors is open.
No.
Go spend some time with your spouse.
Shut your phone off.
That's it. And say, listen, or get up one Sunday morning and say, listen, put something in place and say, I won't be there,
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just go.
and go.
So it was a learning. It's a learning.
It's a learning
Yeah,
process.
Yeah, but
You got to know it's a learning process.
like you
Yeah.
said, people have to remember you're still human. Outside of everything that
Yeah,
God
we
has
are
you
human.
doing, you're still human. You know, you're
Right.
still loving one another, still trying to, and
But people don't look at it
they
that way.
don't look at it.
They
like
look
that.
at it like we're not human, and when we're going through, we can't tell you, because if we tell you, guess what? You looking at us like we got five
Oh,
heads.
Yeah, like what's
Right,
going on
right,
over there?
right.
So
Yeah.
I do
We saw-
believe, I do
Mhm.
believe that, and that's true what you said, Bishop. And man, that's sound. I do believe that if we learn that our first ministry is our ministry at home, because that is sometimes the only Bible that some people will ever see is how we live our lives.
Right.
So
That's
if we leave that alone, or if we neglect that to try to come and save people, when our job inside of the church is to lead them to God, not to try to save
exactly.
them, but we
Right.
mix that and forget the ministry that we supposed to tend to, and come to the church and forget the ministry that we supposed to tend to, and
Yeah.
then it kind of there's an unbalance there, and you got the weight of the scale pulling down here in the church, and then you taking on the weight of, like Pastor said,
Right.
you're taking on the weight of the church, and everything that come, and then there's all you got all of this on your shoulders, and
Right,
and it's
yeah.
weighing you down, and the scale is going a little higher.
Yeah.
So I believe if we learn that our first ministry, this is something that I'm consistently learning. I'm consistently learning because I gotta help. Okay, babes, I just gotta call. I'll be right back. I
We
gotta
just-
go.
We
So
actually
I'm
just went through something
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
just recently. He called me one day and he was like telling me how much babe, I just really love you so much. I appreciate you, man. I'm so glad. I mean, out of nowhere, he every now and again he gets this epiphany about who God sent him in me, right? So then he just telling me all this stuff, and I was just praying, asking God to help me to have an opening to talk to him about something that was really heavy on my heart. And so basically I was like, I'm so glad that you said that. That means a lot to me. I started with the sandwich. I said something really sweet because that was important and it was true. Then I came back with, cause lately I've been feeling like that we don't talk like we used to, because the reason we started this podcast was because he and I would talk all the time about some really good stuff, and then we was like, man, we should do a podcast because of how we communicated and the things we would talk about. And I love great conversation, and he gave that to me. So we started the podcast because of that. And then I think we've been doing this for 3 years. I think this last like small stint of time, probably a few months, it seems as though the only time we talked, and this is me being transparent, y'all listen, this is me being
Mhm.
transparent. The only time it seemed like we really talked deep was when we got here. Cause
Uh-huh.
he would be studying for the podcast. I would be saying, babe, what we talking about and all of that stuff. But the conversations that we used to have, it was like I lost my friend because my friend was
Okay.
engrossed in what it
Right.
took to bring the people what they needed. Not to
Right.
mention, this isn't the only ministry we do. We also do ministry outside of the podcast and things of that nature. So it was like he was, and the call of God is on his life. And I
Yes.
pray for this. We pray, God, help him to be a God fearing man. Help him to love you, God. Lord, help him to if you
Hmm.
called him to be this, be the what you call. And he doing it now. And it's like, it's kind of like, okay, I'm getting what I asked
Be
for.
careful what you
You
pray for.
did.
However,
Exactly.
however,
Exactly.
I do understand God does not like an unjust weight. So if
Right.
it's not just and that the
Hmm.
balance is off, then it's up to me to open my mouth to say, listen, we don't
Yes.
talk like we used to. You used to make me laugh, and I'll be like, "Man, you funny?" He was like, "Yeah, I'm funny." I'm like, "I didn't know you was funny," you know. And so we was getting to know each other. Now it then after a while it appeared that we were just really talking to the people. It was about the
Hmm.
people, the people, the people, and so I was nervous to say it because I didn't, like you said, we don't want to appear argumentative or like he's not
Hmm.
a good husband and all that stuff. But it was like God gave me that opening, and it was so beautiful how he put it, and he listened. No
Hmm.
combat, no like, nah, that's not what I'm doing.
Right.
None of that. It was like you could tell it was a God moment for us. And
Hmm.
since then, see the smile? You see the smile?
Listen,
See
you
it?
you have to we have to learn, and we've learned this. God, open our hearts to each other.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that.
Open our hearts to each other to be able to pick up on each other,
Right.
Come
to
on.
be able to do things
Hmm.
that each other will know. I can there's times I know when something's going on with her,
Come
and I
on.
can just pick it up and feel it, and I'll get up and call, what's going on?
My
Or
goodness.
she'll
Come
pick
on.
up, what's going on? I had to learn that if you want, because we do so much for everybody else, and then our home goes lacking. We had to apologize to our children because we didn't do all the things that we needed to do while they were growing up. And then we wonder why they don't want to go to church no more because they've seen so much. They've
My
seen
goodness.
people, the way they treated their parents. They've seen people, their parents do for people, and people still go back and do the things that they do. We had to sit them down and apologize to them. They had to come because they were our children. When the Lord called us to pastor, they had to come because they were our children and they were under our care. But
Yeah.
they seen a lot, and we didn't want anything to be in their view of their relationship with God. I don't care what went on. I don't care what you saw happen to your parents. It ain't got nothing to do with your relationship with God.
Right,
You
right.
got to know that. But we had to open up the door.
Right.
We had to clean up and let them know we apologize to you. We raised you. It could have been a little better. You know that. But the fact of the matter is because the way we knew how to move in ministry. And when you look at a lot of people, it's because the way they was taught. Just that
Right.
simple.
Yeah.
Your pastor taught you it, and your pastor said this, and you took your pastor's word. It wasn't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They told you you had to be in church 5 days a week. You was there because you trusted the God that they serve.
Mm-hmm.
It's not until you get into your relationship with God and God begin to talk to you and show you. And a lot of stuff that we have been doing had nothing to do with him.
Come.
Wow.
You better talk. You better say it.
Come on here.
A lot of
It's the
people won't
way we
say
were
it.
taught.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why we have to have a relationship with God.
Yeah.
We have to.
Mhm.
24 years we pastored
Mhm.
in a building. The Lord has given us people that we're on our prayer call. The Lord has given us sons and daughters, spiritual sons and daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And we still pastor them, but we may not be in the church.
You might be in the
May
building.
not be in the building.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
It's not all about being in the building.
No.
Talk about it.
There's people that's gonna never ever walk foot in a building,
Mm-hmm.
but you may come in contact with them,
Right.
and they're gonna see something in your life.
Yeah.
And one thing he did say is like you have to hear each other's
Heart.
heart. Like you said, you didn't want to be argumentative, and I said that to him one time before when I was in a moment of being like overwhelmed, and I said, "Well, God, don't He see me? Don't He hear what I'm saying?
Oh,
like,
yeah,
what is
come
you know?"
on.
And I didn't want to get into an argument, and I had to one day, break down and say, like, "Do you not hear my heart?" Like the things that we were doing before, we tried to do a date night. Again, goes back to not just ministry. You
Yeah.
are two individuals. And
Yeah.
I asked him one day and I said, God, I just want him to hear my heart without me even opening my mouth at that time. So when we did talk, like you said, it came out, he received it. He said, I'm sorry. I didn't, I understand. Men and women are made differently. We're made
Yes.
differently. We are.
Yes.
We sometimes move in our emotions, and God had to help me with that too. He said, get your emotions together. Like,
Uh-huh.
okay, I get it, but you need to pull your emotions in, but say it in a way. And when you do say it, I'm going to deal with him that he's going to receive
Come
it.
on, that's the formula.
Wow.
That's the formula.
And the communication, because a lot of times, again, whether you're in the church or out of the church, there's three things that destroy your marriage: lack of communication, lack of finances, a lack of intimacy. Those are the three
Uh-huh.
thing why people get divorced. So you
Uh-huh.
got to keep the
Woo.
communication going.
Yeah,
Gotta talk.
absolutely. That's it.
Thanks for watching Shift Real Talk TV, now available on all major platforms. And don't forget to subscribe.